Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Stephanie Marie. I'm on a mission to spread hope, sharing people's stories to encourage, inspire, and empower you. Today, I'm so blessed to welcome Jerry McKinstry, who's Assistant Vice President of Public Affairs at Pace University and has been my mentor. Hi, Jerry.
Stephanie, it's so great to be here.
We've had so many great discussions through mental health programs at Pace. You've worked in a variety of industries as a writer, an investigative journalist, a columnist. You were even part of an editorial board that was featured for a Pulitzer Prize. While you were working at Pace, you went back to school to pursue your master's in digital media, communications, and filmmaking. And also now you're currently at Brown University's School of Professional Studies to earn your certification in MBSR, Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. Now, as a psychology lover, I find that really interesting. So can you walk us through that journey, really of lifelong learning, I would say? What inspired you to do mindfulness, especially?
Great, great. Well, again, thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's such a pleasure to have this conversation. And I'm really proud to see how well you're doing with the podcast and see your ambition. Yes, well, thank you for the question. The first part was when I was in my 20s. I went back to journalism school, but what I was also interested was film. I was seriously looking at film programs. I was a film buff, but I decided on journalism because I didn't necessarily know a path in film at that moment. I made a choice to go to journalism. So when the opportunity, when I was at Pace, to get ingratiated with the film program here, this sort of notion of opportunity right in front of me, I said, I want to be a part of this. I made 2 documentaries with the Pace Docs team. It was one of my favorite educational experiences in life. I didn't want to regret decisions. So it was in front of me. And there was the naysayers in my mind that were like, you're too old for this. Why would you do this? You're well beyond, you're 25 years older than the next oldest person in the program. I just said, look, this is the opportunity in front of me. Let's seize it. Let's do it. And it was a fantastic experience. Shifting over to the Brown University, what I'm doing now in mindfulness is that, I was first introduced to mindfulness 20 some odd years ago. And I read John Kabat-Zinn's book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And it had a profound impact on me. I'll tell you a story. When I was a journalist, I had a panic attack in a newsroom. I was with 100 or so people in a meeting, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I excused myself, had the classic symptoms of not being able to breathe. My heart race is going. So I went to go see a doctor. And my doctor said, well, congratulations, you have stress. And he's like, I'm not going to prescribe you anything, but you have to figure out how to manage this. And that led me to go deep into meditation and mindfulness as a tool of dealing with stress, anxiety. I've been meditating daily for 2 decades. Fast forward 2 decades after starting it and just having it be a part of my life. A little over a year ago, I had another great stress in my life where, I had a heart attack. You want to talk about sort of life reaffirming moment. I was at this crossroads and again had to figure out how I was going to deal with stress, anxiety. I decided it was time to go deeper, and that's when I enrolled in Brown Mindfulness, where again I am on a 2 to 3 year path of learning how to become an MBSR teacher. It's Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. I've always learned in my life that one of the best ways to be an excellent practitioner is to learn how to teach. And that is why I said I want to go all in. And it really is something that I do every day. It is an avocation that I really love. I know the importance of it. And again, how we met through Radical Health, I bring it to that program and say, okay, let's practice mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? It's living in the moment. It's quieting the mind. It's, not letting all the chatter, take over, especially now with cell phones and all sorts of things sort of competing for our attention. I think it's important to have the tools to slow down, focus in the moment, and manage the stress that, we all sort of face.
Wow, that's an incredibly scary and traumatizing experience. I think is a beautiful thing that you really want to help others to manage the stressors in their life. Even in the Radical Health program, I remember you incorporated the mindfulness into that program, and you would just take a few minutes and show them the breathing techniques. And it sounds simple, but it's not. It's very hard to make it a practice. I personally find it extremely challenging. It tests you in a way. It tests like your mental focus, your alertness to like sit with yourself.
Yeah, you have to be committed to it. And it's not like it gets easier, but you're always confronted with your thoughts and the monkey mind that has all these things racing. and you learn techniques to manage it or deal with it. And it's the most important thing is the effort. You have to do it every day. There's this saying that, if you are too busy to meditate or be mindful for 20 minutes a day, well, then you should do it for an hour.
Yeah,
Like
I've heard of that. I've heard of that. I love how you want to give back to others, like teaching them to help themselves as well. I was in your program when you were the leader, and I remember those skills to this day, and I still put them into practice. So what you're passing on to people is something that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their life.
the notion of that is doing good and helping others is really the reward. And we don't always see it. We just have to trust that we're being helpful in some way.
Definitely. And you wrote an article, which I loved reading. It's called Finding Peace, Being Present in the Moment Through Meditation. You said, if you don't go within, you go without. And that's really been your Zen mantra throughout. So can you talk to us what that means, how people can put that into practice?
If we're going to put our best foot forward in this world, we really have to understand ourselves. That is the best way to sort of anchor yourself in this world, is just to really go within. For some people, it's religion. For some people, it's reflection. It might mean different things to different people. You can't really do your best work without first knowing yourself and repairing yourself and sort of understanding the reason we do things. I tell it to my kids a lot is that, you must love yourself before you can love another. We just do better in this world when we understand ourselves and our place in it. Inner reflection is something that's very important. It brings you more peace when you better understand why you make decisions, why you may have a fear, why you may have a regret. It just helps you with decision makings going forward.
Definitely. There's so many ways you can infuse mindfulness into mundane activities. But what are some ways that you think in their routine people can start to incorporate mindfulness?
There's a lot of doorways into it, and there's apps and books and a lot of practices. The most simple thing to do is to focus on your breath. And it's when you sit down, quiet everything, put the phone away, shut down the email. Sit down, maybe put a timer on. If it's helpful, maybe some soothing background music. I use this comparison. You're sitting by a river and watching your thoughts go by without any judgment. You're not saying it's good, it's bad. It's just let them go. And that is what meditation and mindfulness has taught me, is that you will have thoughts, judgments, but just observe and let them flow down. And that's why the practice is important, because it's very hard in the beginning, but you eventually get a little better at it. I gave some advice to one of my colleagues. Their mind is, always racing. I said, just take 5 minutes and breathe. Listen to your breath, process it. So that's the beginning, the simple way in. And then, like I said, there's some apps. Take a class, read a book. You will not be this sort of perfection Zen who is in the mountains on day one. It is a process. And the most important thing is to stick with it. It's like going to the gym. Going to the gym once is not going to get you in shape. You have to develop a habit. You have to go, every day or every other day. So that the habit is the important thing. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I think it requires discipline too, of setting that time. I like how you refer to it as a non-negotiable. You have to make it a priority. Just those little things really add up and make a big difference.
You remind me of this story when I first started meditating. I didn't know if it was working, but I was committed to it. And I overheard my editor at the time talk about how something changed in me. His writing is sharp. It's clever. I get feedback from my wife, from colleagues, and they're like, yes, you've changed for the better. There are good things happening. So it's now at the point where I'm so open about it that when I'm having a difficult time, the first question my wife or colleagues in the office will say, have you meditated today? So they're in with it. They know the sort of power that it has in my life. That's when you know that it's working.
That's true. And sometimes you don't even notice the changes in yourself. And so you also been on, an 8-hour meditation retreat. And what was that like?
I've been on several. That was when I did the 8-week Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction course, an all-day silent retreat. I was terrified. This is a tall ask. And then you get through it and you're like, wow, that was fantastic. It's amazing. I mean, it was just, I got into the zone real quick and it was helpful and it wasn't that difficult. I couldn't have done the 8-hour without the 2-hour. I couldn't have done the 2-hour without the 1 hour.
You have to build up to it.
And it's like I use that comparison of weight training or exercise. you build up to it and you learn more about yourself in the process.
Wow, that's incredible. I can't even imagine like a whole day's worth of silence and inner reflection. Like you said, all those thoughts come up, automatic negative thoughts, and you have to look at them non-judgmentally, see them for what they are, notice them, process them, and let them go and move forwards. So yeah, that's a really big piece of it. And like you said, people don't have to start with 8 hours. Start with 5 minutes, work your way up to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. I really like that analogy.
It's especially important now when we are plugged in all the
Mm-hmm.
time. We're just always on. It's important to remind ourselves once upon a time we were outside most of the day. It's important to connect, one, with ourselves, but two, the
Mm-hmm.
natural environment. That's when we find our peace, if you will. We don't have to be attached to the phone and the email all the time. And in fact,
Yeah.
it's important that we detach from it for periods of time.
In the program, one of the speakers said taking a tech-free day once a week or at least once a month, just doing a digital detox where all phones, computer, even TV, news, just everything you just need to shut down. That's a good starting place.
I reflect on this often. The difference is, like my generation, we didn't grow up with electronics, where you spend the day outside, it's unplanned, it's not structured,
Mhm.
and go out and live. I struggle with seeing the younger generation who grew up on electronics. Their brain has been wired in a certain way, and these electronics can be quite addictive. Let's take moments to just put them down and check out and go within. Remember, if you don't go within, you go without. So, uh, that's important for us to do.
That's so true. I really love that saying. I want to shift to what's your message to people who want to make a career pivot? They're maybe having regrets that they didn't take that sooner. They feel stuck, lost, confused, and they want to take that next step. What's your message to people that are feeling like that?
And, I think most of us will have those feelings. So it's important
Mhm.
to understand that you're not alone. When I was younger, I had lots of regrets. My wife actually said something that was very profound. And she's like, if any aspect of your life was different, you don't have this life you have now, meaning, my marriage, my children, where I live. So don't live in that regret. I try to transmute regret in a sense of these things that I regret from my youth. I let it fuel my future decision. I went back. I'm doing the Brown program. They could have easily talked myself out of it because I've got a job, a family. It's rewarding, and that it's enriching. If we're talking about careers and people pivoting, it's never too late. Like, I think we've been served up. You're supposed to be here at 30. You're supposed to be here at 40. You're supposed to be here at 50. It's never too late to do something interesting. Figure out a way. There are ways to do it. If you want to write a book, go sit down and write a book. Don't put this pressure on that you have to write a bestseller or create paint a Picasso. Just don't put so much pressure. Just take steps towards it, and you will find that it's so rewarding that you'll want to take the next step. My professional journey, it is not a textbook path. It was very windy. Sometimes you'd advance, take steps back, sometimes you'd take sideways. I studied political science and economics and philosophy. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I loved all those different areas. And I first started out with an internship down at a major bank down on Wall Street. I quickly learned that it was not for me. The prospect for a good career was there, but I just dreaded my days. I was 21 and I quickly realized that wasn't for me, but I didn't know what was. That began a long journey of trying to find out what I wanted to do. So those early years were difficult. I did a lot of jobs. I worked for nonprofits. I worked for government doing revitalization. I was seeking, but not finding the full answer. And then I think it was when I was bartending in New York City. It was directly across the street from the New York Times. So a lot of their reporters would come in and I'd hear their stories. And I was like, you guys get paid to do this? My father slipped an advertisement for an open house to go back to school for journalism. And I just was like, I was really made for that. People are often surprised to hear this about me, but I was terribly shy. I just was really an introvert. Well, that career opened it up because I had to overcome that fear of conversation. So I was a journalist for a good 17 years, and I was an investigative reporter, and all of that was just really a wonderful experience. It was hard work. And I was simultaneously a professor for 10 years, really enjoyed that. And it was the dynamic of practicing and then teaching. And it really does relate to make you a better teacher and a better practitioner. And you referenced my Newsday experience. I was a member of the editorial board. I never thought I would actually leave journalism. I realized that the industry was changing so much and I didn't want to be a part of it because there was layoffs and a massive transformation and I just didn't like the direction of it. So I made a decision to say no when I didn't have a job. I was going to change my career and pivot. And that's when I had learned at that point to transition to sort of agency work and help clients, with their public relations, with their community relations. So that led me to Pace, where I've been for the last 6 years. It's been a windy road, one that I've enjoyed. Some of the turns I couldn't have predicted, but here we are. It's a trust in the process. If my life is an example in any way, I could not have planned this out. There is no world in which I plan this out and it lands the exact way. So just take the steps in front of you one at a time. Joseph Campbell, who is a mythologist, he was at Sarah Lawrence, he's famous for, he would tell his students to follow your bliss. And I remember saying, I don't know what my bliss is. I sort of changed that to follow your curiosity.
Mhm.
Follow what you're curious. You'll find that it starts to add up one piece after another to really make an interesting life. So that's my advice. Just follow your curiosity and doors will open.
And so another thing is you talk a lot about finding your way along the journey. I think the fear of failure stops people from starting. What's your advice for people who are worried about taking that leap, feeling lost, especially new grads and college students, like people that are just entering really this first phase of their professional life?
Far too often you see it where people are climbing the mountain only to reach the top and realize they were climbing the wrong mountain. So my advice for young people is don't think so far in advance. Like you can always change. And I think young people, and I was the same way, don't realize that you can always switch it up. And it's just not to put so much pressure on this decision will dictate the rest of my life. Now, what we do in the moment is important for the direction we're going. So I don't want to be cavalier about that, but it's like GPS. If you take a wrong turn, it redirects, and that's very much what life is like. You can always redirect. And then the second part of that is just try to enjoy the journey. I often do this when I'm driving is I don't take the same route. It's because I want to see different things. It reminds me, this is a movie that probably it predates your generation, but it was Dead Poet Society. And I remember the teacher, played by Robin Williams, tells them to stand on their desks. And the whole point was to get a totally different vision of the classroom, different perspective. And that has always sort of resonated with me is that just try to look at things differently. We run on this program doing the same things, same routines, and just switch it up once in a while and look at things differently.
We need to stop getting in our own head and beating ourselves up over those mistakes because that one failure is going to lead to your next opportunity.
We need failure in our life. I mean, it's an essential part of evolving and growing is having failure. I would say don't harp on the failure, learn from it. I've had probably more failure than I've had success. I just see it as a learning point. And it's just sort of saying, oh, what did I learn from that? I do view my life and my professional career as a journeyman. And I was like a young boy. We used to have baseball cards, trading cards. And I remember one day he's like, oh, this is a journeyman catcher. And I thought immediately as a 10-year-old, oh, that's a negative. He's not an all-star. He's this or that. And years later, I look back and I said, man, I really admire the journeyman. That's somebody who keeps coming back and he's hanging on and he's fighting and he's gritty and he's figuring out a way to stay in the leagues. That is very much what I think that many of us are doing in our careers or in life is, we're on a journey,
That's true. Yeah. It's like you said, when you view regrets and failures and setbacks, challenges, I think that makes a really big difference. Not viewing it as like, oh, I need to be the champion, the all-star, or the person on the journey. So yeah, I really love that. I want to ask you, as I ask all of my guests, what role has hope played in your journey, and how do you hold on to hope today?
Well, that's a profound question. Hope is really such an essential part. It's, you think about it, faith, hope, and love. Those are really key things that I was taught about. Hope keeps us optimistic, for something better, grander, fulfilling. It gives us something to look forward to. We need hope. Back to mindfulness is that to live in the moment, that hope for today is going to be a good one, and believe it. If you believe it, it tends to happen. So hope is an integral part of having a good life.
I like how you equate it to mindfulness. I think a lot of the same values that come out of mindfulness equate to hope. And hope, even it lowers our cortisol level. It guides us in life because we're not meant to live in a state of fight or flight our whole life. We can't thrive under those conditions. And I think that the hope really sets us forward and lets us enjoy the journey and see the good moments. Because if you just see those failures, as we talked about, you're not going to go forward. So I think the hope is like that stopping point on each step of the journey. We're letting us go forward.
This relates to hope, but this is something I learned that was very important in journalism. Always define your North Star, your direction. It's not a specific path, but it's effectively defining your values, who you are, what you believe, and it will guide you when you have difficult decisions if you have that North Star. It's got hope, integrated into that. So follow it, because you will be challenged in a number of ways throughout your life. But if you have that North Star, and for me, I try to do good, I try to speak the truth and keep growing and learning. And that's effectively my North Star. And if you have that philosophy and follow it, I think it acts as a really good guide in your life.
It does. I think every person should sit down with themselves, write their values, come up with some non-negotiables that you say, I'm going to do this every day. It's not about finding the time. It's about making the time. If something is important to you, you'll carve out that time and space and write down what gives you hope to thrive in life. What is pointing you? What's guiding you? Like you said, finding your North Star. That resonates with me a lot. Also, I studied philosophy too. So that's why you're so philosophic. I know many people are going to take away so much from this. So thank you so much, Jerry. This was amazing discussion as always.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. I am excited to watch your path and see your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like you're an example of lifelong learning. Like you want to pass it on to others. So thank you so much for passing it on to me and then passing it on to everyone.
Well, Stephanie, thank you. That is a wonderful compliment, and I appreciate that.
If this message has resonated with you, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment sharing what's your favorite part, and stay subscribed for weekly videos on this channel. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you everyone for listening, and have a fabulous day. Bye.